The movie tells the story of a student named Tom and his childhood friend Danny. Tom likes a girl named Lucy. At his school, there is a mischievous student named Eugene who often acts violently. Tom is a boy out of wedlock who lives with his grandmother. One night, Tom left the house because he was bored. On the way, Tom finds Lucy's door open. Out of curiosity, Tom entered and instead heard a faint scream. It turns out that 4 criminals are raping Lucy. When they realized Tom's presence, the 4 perpetrators immediately ran after him. Tom ran away, calling someone for help, but one of the criminals shot Tom right in the head, precisely through his cell phone. Tom was also unconscious. 10 days later, Tom wakes up in the hospital. Doctors said that the right side of his head had been operated on, but that part of the cell phone component was left in his brain. Unfortunately, doctors were unable to remove the component from his brain. After undergoing an examination, Tom was finally allowed to go home. He felt very guilty for not being able to help Lucy when it happened, but after returning home, strange things began to happen to Tom. Suddenly, he could hear other people's conversations on the phone, even though he wasn't using any devices. Tom then visits Lucy and apologizes that he couldn't help her that night, but Lucy didn't mind it because everything had happened. But Tom will not stand still. He promised to reveal the culprit who had raped Lucy. When Tom returned home, he began to hear people's voices on the telephone in his head. Surprisingly, he could even see numbers in pictures, as if a computer system was starting to appear before him from objects that used electricity. Out of it was in a computer system. Amazingly, now Tom can access all the data he wants with just his mind. Because he couldn't stand it and felt nauseous, Tom passed out. The next day, Tom returned to school after a post-surgery break. He was reunited with Danny. Tom tells Danny that he suspects Eugene of being involved in Lucy's rape. But Danny looks disapproving and says that Eugene may look naughty, but he understands boundaries. Now Tom is increasingly able to see more clearly all the activities on the internet around him. Arriving at the school, Tom accidentally sees Eugene's video message, which turns out to be a video of Lucy's rape. Knowing that fact makes Tom emotional and accidentally blows up Eugene's cell phone using just his mind. That night, Tom goes to his schoolmate's party. There, he notices Eugene and identifies 3 other people involved in raping Lucy. As it turned out, the other 3 men were Eugene's men. Tom could not contain his anger and approached Eugene, but Danny immediately stopped and dragged him out. Once again, Tom is sure that the perpetrator of Lucy's rape is Eugene, but Danny disagrees with Tom's allegations. Tom, who was with Lucy, then saw Eugene and his 3 men strolling on the street. From Lucy's expression, Tom was sure that the perpetrators of the rape were those men. That night, Tom begins his act of terror by sending an unknown message to Eugene's group. Tom also learned how to hack mobile phone servers and various other computer and internet devices using his mind. Tom then manages to hack Eugene's phone. That night, he also hacked into all electronic devices in Eugene and his men's house, including Cass, who was caught masturbating in his room. At school, Tom begins to launch an act of revenge. When the teacher started to explain the lesson in front of the class, suddenly Tom showed Cass a masturbation scene on the projector screen. It was a disgrace, and everyone was shocked. When Tom told Lucy about the incident, it turned out that Lucy was quite amused. That's when Tom started texting Lucy using his mind. In the message, Tom admitted that he was an eye-boy who was there to avenge the harassment of the men on her. Tom then invites Lucy to enjoy the view of the river. It looks like all of Lucy's trauma has started to get better. At that time, Lucy said that after the rape incident, Tom was the only one who visited and comforted her. Tom then promised Lucy that he would always protect her even if he sacrificed himself. In the evening, when Tom and Lucy return home, Eugene stops them on the street. Out of nowhere, Eugene is sure that Tom and Lucy have been terrorizing them all this time. That night, Tom proves his word if he doesn't run and dares to face Eugene. When Eugene wants to beat up Tom, Tom sends an unknown message to Eugene and his men. Eugene then confused about the message. Tom and Lucy then sped away. Tom's terror of Eugene continues that night. Eugene and 3 friends are suddenly locked in the car. The car engine also starts on its own. Because it is too hot, the engine begins to smoke. Using the radio, Tom asks why they attacked the walkers and raped Lucy. Because he was too afraid to suffocate to death in a car that started to emit smoke, Cass finally said they were ordered by cops. Finally, Tom knows who is behind all these crimes. At Cut's place, there was Keon, and unexpectedly, Danny was there too. Suddenly, on television, there was a recording of Cut's car being urinated on by someone. Seeing that, they immediately went out to check the car. Tom immediately took the opportunity to enter Cut's headquarters. Using his mind, Tom easily ruffled the place. Everything related to electricity is blown up by Tom. He also found several packets of drugs and took them. This time Tom's action did not end there. He then put the drugs into a small package and put it in the house of Eugene and his men. The following day, the police arrive and arrest Eugene's group with evidence of drugs that Tom distributed. Unfortunately, they all have to languish in the police station. Meanwhile, all of Cut's balances were suddenly empty. The next night, Cutts gets a warning from the big boss named Elman on top of a building. At that time, Tom was trying hard to track down Elman's whereabouts, but strangely, Elman's whereabouts were not tracked by the system and his brain, as if his data could be found on any network. That same night, with orders from Elman, everyone tried to find out where iBoy was by seizing all laptops and electronics that could be used for hacking. Unfortunately, they don't know that Tom doesn't need electronics to hack. The next day, Tom again arrests Elman's drug dealings. That night, Tom intends to thwart the big deal. Tom's grandmother, who was worried about his change in attitude, went to Danny and asked him to keep an eye on Tom. Meanwhile, Tom continues to follow Cut's car, but Tom loses track in the middle of the road because it turns out that Cutts threw his cell phone in the trash. When having trouble finding the whereabouts of Cutts, Tom suddenly hears the sound of a plane. He quickly thought of hacking the satellite. Finally, the whereabouts of Cutts were found. Tom followed him to the port. Tom then learned martial arts from the internet. With his instant martial arts skills, he managed to knock out guards and burn the drugs he found. But unfortunately, Cutts' men suddenly appeared and started hitting him. Luckily, Tom was able to use high-frequency sound to disturb everyone's hearing, so he managed to escape. The following day, Tom woke up by the river. Meanwhile, Lucy was waiting for Tom at school because they had promised to take the exam together. Unfortunately, Tom arrived at school just as the exams ended. Lucy is disappointed and angry, but Tom keeps trying to persuade Lucy until they leave the campus building. That's when Lucy looked back, and there hung Cass's body. It was a sight that shocked everyone. Tom then meets Danny. Tom asks about Cass's death, and Danny blames iBoy for his death. That fact made Tom feel guilty. He then went to his surgeon and asked him to remove all the pieces of the cell phone that were still embedded in his brain. But according to the doctor, it was impossible to do because Tom's life could be lost. Tom, who came home, did not expect to get a surprise. At his house, Keon was waiting for him, pointing a gun at Tom's head. Elman is there while Cutts is holding his grandmother hostage. But strangely, Tom couldn't see Elman's real face at all, as if something was interfering with the frequency in his brain. Elman, who already knew Tom's abilities, threatened to kill Lucy. Meanwhile, Lucy is under Eugene's ambush. Tom immediately uses his hacking skills and hacks Eugene's cell phone. He called the police to save Lucy. Elman then called Danny and was not denied. It was Danny who told Elman that Tom was an iBoy. It turns out that Danny was a traitor who was willing to sacrifice his friend for money all this time. Elman then asks to hack into the bank and fill in his empty account balance. Just by using his mind, Tom managed to fill the empty account little by little. Meanwhile, at the place where Lucy is being held captive, the police begin to arrive. But Eugene and his two accomplices managed to escape the police ambush. It turns out that Lucy managed to take the gun lying on the ramps and point it at Eugene and his gang. Lucy then ran away, but she met Elman, who was carrying Tom. Eventually, Lucy returned to being a hostage, and Elman asked Tom to fill his account with a lot of money. However, because the phone was in Elman's hands, the system was disrupted. Turns out Elman was using a frequency tamper embedded in his head. Tom tried hard to hack Elman's cell phone, but instead of adding the money balance, he managed to blow up the cell phone. Finally, by using his abilities, Tom easily defeated all of Elman's men. Elman then fled outside, and Tom chased after him. Unfortunately, Tom was trapped because Elman suddenly appeared behind him and beat him to the ground. Just as Elman is about to kill Tom, Lucy appears with a gun in her hand. Lucy then shoots Elman and hits him in the arm. But because she was too nervous, Elman managed to grab the gun and instead hit Lucy to the ground. Tom stood up with his remaining strength, and with all his might, his real power emerged. With the determination to save Lucy, Tom managed to release his main power, namely an electric shock, which instantly killed Elman. After that night, Tom fell back into a coma and only regained consciousness after a few days. After recovering, Tom returned to his school. There he meets Danny again. Danny tries to apologize by handing over all the money he's raised while working with Elman, but Tom refuses. Tom's refusal infuriated Danny. He even said that Tom shouldn't be proud because he killed Elman. That's when Tom expressed his suspicions all along. All this time, Tom has been trying to find out who the perpetrator is who recorded Lucy's rape video, and now he realizes that in the building, Tom and Lucy meet for their first date. The two seem to like each other and promise to take care of each other. This film then reached its end. So, what do you think of this movie? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Any constructive feedback is highly appreciated. Also, did you enjoy the recap? Hit the like button if you liked it, subscribe if you loved it, and feel free to share this content with your friends and family as well. Please check out our channel to find even more movie recaps of your liking, and don't forget to ring the notification bell to stay updated with our future videos. And that's about it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next videos.